Hello and welcome, everyone. A good morning to everyone, good afternoon, and good evening for all those joining us from across and around the world. Welcome to Elevate Virtual Conference. Today, my talk is going to be about supply chain, the digital way. I'm specifically focusing on the digital part of supply chain, and my topic today would be the journey towards a digitalized supply chain in the age of AI, where I'm going to be taking you through the intricacies and the different pillars, how to engage in a digital supply chain in a healthy approach. Myself, Dr. Nadal Baroui, I'm a lecturer of supply chain and business analytics. I'm also the co-founder of Step Square, which is an organization that looks after different types of implementations in the field of digital transformation, specifically in the field of supply chain management and logistics. I'm also a member of Chartered Institute for Logistics and Transport, CILT. In the UK, I'm a board member of WeLat Council, which is Women in Logistics and Transport, where we focus more on women's rights in the field of logistics and supply chain, specifically those working in the field of manufacturing and working in facilities and so on and so forth. Lastly, I was the ex-advisor to His Excellency, the Minister of Transport in Egypt, and these are my contacts. Well, before I embark on my talk, as the talk is mainly focusing about supply chain management, I'm happy to share with you first thing first. Whenever the talk is about supply chain management, usually we always like to engage in the talk of integrating the different pillars and participants of a supply chain. So we all know that the supply chain management involves a lot of coordinations and arrangements between different participants who comes to be performing under a separate entity. Could be the supplier, the manufacturer, the retailer, the customer from a side, a downstream, and the supplier from another side, the upstream. Meanwhile, at the end of the day, the customer seeks to be, at the end of the day, happy customer. So we always need to work together, to come together to be able to fulfill this aim and make a happy customer. So any misintegration, any disconnection in the middle of a supply chain may result in a disrupted supply chain and makes an unhappy customer. And that's why there we jump into the topic of technology and the role of technology in order to make this miscommunication not happen. So for this reason, we know that for firms to be able to achieve a resilient supply chain, visibility comes to be one of the keys to resilience. So in order to be able to have a resilient supply chain, there are many elements, but let's zoom in into the main focus of being a resilient supply chain or in securing a resilient supply chain. Visibility comes to be one of the main pillars. You need to have full visibility of your chain. You need to have full visibility of your operations to be able to engage in every bits happening throughout the whole operation from the upstream to the downstream. So for this reason, today my talk, I'm going to be explaining through the presentation, what are the main pillars towards digitizing a supply chain? It starts with digitization, moves forward to digitalization, and then ends at digital transformation. The main driver for my talk today is that many companies embark on engaging with the most trending technologies, and then they face some struggles or some issues related to the success of implementing these technologies. This this emerges from the idea that they did not fully understand the business requirements and they were not ready to go forward with implementing a certain technology. Struggles comes when the relevant technology is not installed to meet the needs of an organization. So here I'm taking you through the different pillars or phases that we go through in order to engage in a more digitized supply chain that can support the concept that we earlier talked about at the beginning of the presentation, which is the integration and synchronization. At the end of my presentation, I will try to reflect on how the concept moved from just collaboration to the end where it comes to be nowadays called synchronization, which is seamless level of integration. So I'll start with the first pillar, which involves the digitization, where firms need to be ready using some certain types of applications, where we highlight or we define this concept academically or maybe industry flavored by industry to move from being paper-based to becoming more relying on digital platforms. So digital platforms comes to be a source of data collection. It would be a good source of data where we capitalize and build on the daily operations, the day-to-day data coming from customers, coming from agreements with suppliers, data coming from orders, data coming from warehouse data. Everything that has to do with your whole operation needs to be collected in some sort of place so that you can look back and come up with findings to be able to meet the expectations of a customer. So digitization is the very initial phase that has to do with moving it from being paper-based to a digital platform. I'll reflect in my next slide what type of application supports this phase, but it goes without saying that the next phase would be, as a result of having sufficient data collected for the purpose of managing the day-to-day operations, companies can easily move to the next phase, which is the digitalization, which incorporates the use of dashboards, that involve statistical analysis of how the company is actually performing. This involves the use of data coming out from the applications used in the first place. Meanwhile, if you don't have this reliable data, if you don't have this data that has been cleansed correctly to build on insights based on this data, it won't work. Digitalization won't be the best solution. So this means that we need to exert some effort in cleansing the data we have in the first stage before moving forward to the digitalization phase. Comes next is digital transformation, which comes to be trending nowadays, where we call it the phase where firms are willing to boost efficiency, where you mix up your operations with a flavor of trending technologies, like the use of AI, the use of drones for delivery purposes, the use of IoT sensors in a warehouse facility, for example. So digital transformation is useful. It boosts efficiency, and it also can engage the enterprise in adding value towards what they do. This means that in a case of using drones, a customer can receive their parcels in the same day, for example. Meanwhile, if you're using a traditional approach, you still rely on the fleet, on the transportation using the fleets or those vehicles to transport the parcel to a customer. So we're trying to mix between the human flavor together with the AI and robotics and these trending technologies to be able to boost the efficiency of an enterprise. I here present to you some examples of each and every stage, what exactly the firm needs to have or involve in order to get the best out of each stage. So if we speak about the digitization phase, which again involves moving from paper-based to a digital platform, it could involve either enterprise systems, which are the large enterprises. Sometimes some companies can easily invest in large applications or big applications like ERP systems. Sometimes some organizations might have some limited budgets to be able to invest in these large enterprise systems, but it could be the case. So a firm could have separate applications that comes or standalone applications that fits for the purpose, or the firms could just rely on using this large ERP in case they have sufficient budgets to invest in an ERP. On another note, we still have the portfolio of logistics applications that supports the logistics information systems or that supports the logistics operations. It involves the order management, the warehouse management, and the transportation management systems. Or, as we mentioned, it could fall under the umbrella of an enterprise system, which has multiple modules to support for the purpose. Bottom line, to involve the use of applications that can help you create and engage with the daily operations and the maximum data you can collect to support your supply chain operation. It involves orders, it involves warehousing operations, it involves inventory management, it involves transportation. I gave here some examples to you so that you can relate. The other phase, as you can see here in this diagram, it reflects that this phase is reliant on the previous stage. So as we mentioned, it's the phase where we engage in seeing dashboards reflecting how far the business has been improving, who are the top 10 customers, who are the best suppliers, who are the worst performing. But we cannot just rely on dashboards if we don't have the output coming from the initial phase. So definitely we capitalize on the data. The more data collected, more big data approaches are taking place makes your digitalization phase or your dashboards more insightful. The last phase, as I mentioned, was reflecting on the use of the trending technologies like the use of drones, robotics, IoT applications. This goes without saying. It's like you're shaking up the divisions, mixing between AI, robotics, and human activities, dedicating more of the dummy work that can be conducted by machines to things like AI, and dedicating work that requires creativity and innovation to human. It's good to know from this slide, generally speaking, that the technological evolution in supply chain changed the flavor from it used to reflect in the very first traditional stages what we call optimization of a supply chain, which used to take place in between or within the business activities. The updates or the new breed for this approach was the integration, where companies started to think about how integration takes place between the different business functions in an organization. Moving forward, supply chain players, they decided to think about it differently, where a collaborative supply chain makes more sense, where we need to engage with the upstream and the downstream, where we need to have our customers and suppliers involved. And finally, the last flavor of a supply chain, which goes beyond just collaboration and integration, is the synchronization of the supply chain, which is like it's like partnership amongst the different players. It's like we link together with the customers from a side, suppliers from the side, and the different supply chain players in the middle. I also like to reflect something, because usually when the talk is about technology, many people say taking over our roles, taking over our positions, but I can see many insights from different sources like CNBC, World Economic Forum. Some indicate that the use of robotics and AI and such trending technologies can be a driver for more jobs to be created and not taking over people's jobs. But the matter is not about new jobs, it's about what type of jobs. So you can see here, reflecting from this report, that many jobs will actually tend to disappear by time. Many jobs will decrease, the demand will decrease on these types of jobs, which are the trivial type of jobs, or we can say the types of jobs that can be easily replaced by a machine. Building scenarios, replacing the typical scenario a human can make within some machines so that it can take over. Meanwhile, still robotics, they say that robotics, we create the robotics, we maintain the robotics, we interact with the robotics, as they say. So this makes the case that still human needs to be involved, human needs to still interact, but in a different flavor, and different types of jobs are actually emerging. Thank you for listening to the presentation. I'm happy I've been with you tonight, in the morning. I don't know, whatever time is it in your region, but I was really happy to join it physically or maybe virtually live, but I was not able due to time zone difference. But I'm happy to have conducted this presentation with you, and happy to take up forward any questions. If you have, you can contact me on these contact points. Thank you very much for your time today, and have a lovely event altogether. Thank you so much.